All right, government students, 2.4 virtual notes here. This is going to be on the judicial branch, talking about the U.S. court system here, to kind of understand how we make decisions when it comes to interpreting the law. Okay? So how does it work? And then a big part of this is going to be also understanding the idea of judicial review and what that whole thing does. So Article 3. Article 3 of the Constitution is all about the judicial branch. It is short. There's not a ton there. And if you notice, our articles have been getting shorter. Article 1, longest of them, 10 sections. Article 2, not quite as long, but still got some length to it, 4 sections there. Article 3, there's 3 sections, and it's not super long at all. Okay, that's because there's not a ton that the judicial system was originally designed to do. It was fairly limited. Really, what Article 3 of the Constitution does is it creates the U.S. court system, okay, and begins to lay out some of the ideas that are going to be there. There are 2 different levels of the constitutional courts that are created by the Constitution. There is a Supreme Court and there are inferior courts. And again, you can find that in Article 3, Section 1. Congress, though, is the one who gets to decide what that inferior court system looks like. And Congress is essentially divided it up into 2 different levels. You have district courts, okay, and circuit courts. And we'll talk both about those. So let's start off with district courts. These are the first level for the majority of federal cases. This is where things start at the federal level. There are some specific instances that skip the district and Court of Appeals level, okay, the circuit courts, and go right to the Supreme Court, but they're very limited and specifically laid out in the Constitution. We'll talk about those in a minute. Okay? But the district courts are the first step for all federal law. Okay, and really, this is where the majority of cases are going to be heard. Okay, there are 94 districts in the United States. There are 642 federal judges. Some of those districts are entire states. Okay, if you look at Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, all of these states over here all have one federal district. Each state has at least one federal district, though. It's not like these are combined together. Okay? Each state has at least one. But if you look over here, like in Michigan, we have 2 federal districts. We have a Eastern Michigan district and a Western Michigan district. Okay? That's going to be based off our population. Other states are some similar. You know, that state we all love to the south, Ohio, worst state ever. Northern portion, okay, southern portion, Tennessee and Kentucky, right? Kentucky, Eastern and Western. Tennessee is divided into 3: Eastern, Middle, and Western. All that's going to be decided by Congress. Okay, so that's that. That also includes, if you look over here, some of our territories also have district courts. Right? Washington D.C. has its own federal district court. But that's the district level. Next, the next level of courts is the circuit court level. Okay? There are 12 federal circuits in the United States. There are 179 federal judges who make up these circuit courts, and they review the cases made by the district courts. Okay? This is essentially like the Court of Appeals. So you lose your case at the district level, you can appeal that case to the circuit courts. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to hear it. Okay? A lot of cases, they're not going to say, nope, we're sticking with that lowercase decision. But there are some cases where there's maybe a question of constitutionality, or maybe there's some procedural issues with the district court level decision. Then the circuit court's going to take a look at it. There's no jury here anymore. This is instead usually a panel of usually 3 judges. Okay? These are some of the different districts here in Michigan. We are in the 6th Circuit. Okay? So all the decisions made in the 6th Circuit apply to all districts, all the district courts in the 6th Circuit as well. But say the 9th Circuit over here in California makes a decision, that does not apply to us. Okay, it only applies to the 9th Circuit in terms of those types of decisions. So all these different circuits are kind of independent of one another. All right. So again, you see 11 here listed. Well, where's the 12th one? Just like Washington, D.C. had a district circuit, they also have a circuit for themselves, right? So they have one district and one circuit because they're kind of unique in that sense, right? They're not a state, but yet still a lot of people live there, and there's a lot of law decisions that are made in Washington, D.C., okay? So that's that. Now let's talk jurisdiction. Okay, jurisdiction is really the authority to hear a case. That's the definition of what jurisdiction is. Article 3, Section 2 lays out all the details of jurisdiction. And these are really the 4 jurisdictions here. So you have exclusive jurisdiction, and this is at the federal level. There are certain things that only federal courts are going to be able to hear. No state court can hear those types of things. And when it comes to federal law, states aren't going to be dealing with that. The federal government is. Okay, you have something called original jurisdiction. This is given to the Supreme and to district courts. So in certain areas, those cases have to go to a particular court. Okay, the court that has original jurisdiction in that particular type of case. So if you break a federal law and you are being charged with a crime and you have to go to federal court, that's probably going to be in the district level. But if there is an issue with like an ambassador, all right, you can look at this in Article 3, Section 2. If there's an issue with an ambassador, that's going to skip the district court level. That's going to go straight to the Supreme Court because they have original jurisdiction in that particular area. Okay? Another type of jurisdiction is called appellate jurisdiction. This is the appeals process. Okay? The federal district courts do not have appellate jurisdiction. They only have original jurisdiction. Whereas the Supreme Court and circuit courts both have appellate jurisdiction, right? And this is where they're hearing cases from a lower court. Okay? And then lastly, you have concurrent jurisdiction. This is where things get interesting. Okay? Where there is a law that is broken, right? Somebody commits a crime, and that crime breaks both federal and state laws. Okay? So you murder, like somebody goes on a murder spree. One of them being in southern part of Michigan, the other part being in the northern part of Indiana. Well, that broke laws in Michigan, that broke laws in Indiana, and because it happened across federal lines, that also became a federal case. So you have a situation of concurrent jurisdiction going on where any one of those could be hearing a case. In fact, they probably will all hear a case in that sense. Okay? Another way to look at jurisdiction here, I like to say it because we can bring in the state courts as well. And the federal level, original jurisdiction here at the district court level, appellate jurisdiction at the circuit court level, and original and appellate at the Supreme Court. Okay? Same kind of thing going on in the states. In the states, we have trial courts. They have original jurisdiction. Right? Then if you lose a case there, you can appeal it. That's the Court of Appeals. They have appellate jurisdiction. And then Michigan has its own Supreme Court. Okay? They have original and appellate jurisdiction. Now, if you lose a case here at the state Supreme Court level, it's not done yet. You can still appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Right? This is the highest court in the United States. All right? Once the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's final, though. Okay? The only court that can overturn a Supreme Court decision is the Supreme Court. That has happened. There have been some decisions that have been overturned, but it doesn't happen very often. Okay? Let's talk federal judges next, because federal judges are a very unique thing. Because in Article 3, Section 1, it says that judges, both the Supreme and inferior court, shall hold their offices during good behavior. The question is, what does good behavior mean? What was the intent of that? And that has been traditionally interpreted to mean that judges are going to serve life terms. Okay? Which means if you're going to not be a federal judge anymore, once you're appointed by the president, then confirmed by the Senate, appointment power, really important power, there's only 3 ways for a federal judge to leave that position. Number 1, they decide to voluntarily retire. They decide to step down. Okay? Some judges do that. Number 2, judge dies. Okay? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right before the 2020 election, she dies, and now it's up to the President Trump and the Senate to fill that vacancy. They do that with Amy Coney Barrett. Okay? A third one is impeachment. If a federal judge is impeached and then removed from office, okay, they are no longer able to hold that position. But again, that appointment power, remember, they are limited in this power by checks and balances, and that is the president who appoints and the Senate that confirms. So the legislative and executive branches are both involved in this process. Okay? Why do lifetime for judges? Why not have them on a term-based thing? Why not 10 years, 20 years? There's been some talk about that, possibly getting involved, especially at the Supreme Court level where things get really, really political. about the hiring of about the nomination process for Supreme Court judges. It's trying to protect them from politics, right? Once a judge is there, they don't have to necessarily agree, even with the president who appointed them. Okay, they can make decisions based off of what the law says. Okay, and that's what a good judge does: is they look at the law, how it's written, how the Constitution is written, what rights are there, and they interpret it based off of that. They're not going off and playing politics. They're not going off and doing their own thing. They look at the law and the Constitution and make decisions based off of that, because there's going to be times where a judge is going to have to make an unpopular decision. The majority of people may not like it, but you know what the solution for that is? Maybe Congress changes the law. Or if it's an issue of constitutionality, maybe we amend the Constitution. Okay? We have ways to go around those federal decisions. But it's a judge's job is to deal with the law and what's written in the Constitution. Okay, all inferior courts, though, so like your district courts and your circuit courts, they're going to be governed by precedent. Okay, and what this means, what precedent is, it's basically like previous decisions made by the Supreme Court. You see, I have SCOTUS down here. That's Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS. So any decision that the Supreme Court makes, that is going to create precedent or create a guideline for other courts who are facing similar decisions to that particular issue to then go about and make decisions. It also provides other guidance for federal agencies and different groups of how to enforce things, right? So, for example, what I like to use is a case called Tinker v. Des Moines. Deals with student speech in school. Okay? We'll look at this a little bit more when we get to class. But you do not have the same rights in school that you do outside of school. You probably know that. Maybe Miss Reynolds has had to talk to you at some point. Okay? Well, that's because of this particular case, Tinker v. Des Moines. And in that case, what they said is, look, you don't shed all of your rights at the door. You still maintain a number of your constitutional rights, but they're limited in a number of other ways because of something called in loco parentis, where the school kind of acts as your parents, right, or in place of your parents. It's Latin for in place of parents. Okay? So they have a little bit more ability to restrict your rights. So that's why you can't wear certain shirts. It's where you can't fly certain flags. Because those things have been determined to make a substantial disruption to the classroom environment, okay, and to the learning environment. That's all coming from that particular case. And we'll talk more about that in class when we get to a pretty fun case that you guys will usually like. Okay? So that's everything that I've got so far on the judicial branch. I'm dealing with federal judges and the Supreme Court and lower courts. So have that ready and be ready for some interesting discussions related to the U.S. court system